Well, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. The one thing that I have noticed among people is that the capacity for being grateful is really a mark of refinement. Not expressing gratitude, but feeling gratitude. Many people express it. But the way to really feel it and express it truly, as opposed to merely expressing words, is to take it within. The expression of gratitude is really a sort of a feeling of appreciation that in itself is tantamount to trying to attune yourself to the giver. To express gratitude to God is to go into silence, to be open to His vibrations. It's sort of like when somebody does something for you that you really appreciate. You don't have to say it, but you feel love going out to that person that creates a link and sort of closes a circuit in a way. An interesting thing, when I met Anandamoyi Ma, it was a wonderful meeting. I felt enormously inspired. I could hardly speak for joy. And it was very sweet. I had certain messages from different people. One of the monks had asked for a little bit of cloth, maybe a handkerchief or something that she had used. And so I asked her if she could give this, and she gave it so gladly. I thought, wow, I'd better get in this act too. I said, could I have two, please? And she brought me a towel that she'd used, and then she brought me this big shawl that I have, not wearing today, it's white, but something she said she'd worn for 5 years, and gave this to me. And I was just so moved by it, and afterwards I said thank you. And her answer always intrigued me. She said, well, would you thank your own mother? In this country, of course, we would. But in India, generally speaking, they don't express thanks except formally. They don't express thanks to their nearest and dearest because it seems too formal. Partly it's the word itself, dhanyavad. It sounds very formal in itself. But many Indians, even when talking their own language, will prefer to say thank you, because it has a more informal feel to it. But the thing is that the consciousness there is that the way to thank, if you really are thanking, is to simply offer your love and offer it in silence. And this is what I have noticed with people of any kind of sensitivity. Whether they say thank you or not is superficial, but to be able to feel and express appreciation, the ability to give credit to another human being, is something that you find a great many people don't have. They almost, when you do them a favor, they almost act as if you owed them that favor. They almost act as if they didn't want to open themselves to the extent of actually saying that they appreciate it, for fear that maybe you'd twist it in some way or they'd get hurt. It's really sad. I've noticed this especially in the cities, and of all cities in the world, especially in New York, where you walk down the streets, or preferably drive through the streets, and you see this constant hedging in of the consciousness for fear of being struck by somebody, by not just a literal sword blade, but by an unkind remark, by an unappreciative attitude, and so on. And I've even seen people in that sort of crowd where if you do smile at them, they sort of look at you suspiciously, as if you were trying to put something over on them, as if now comes the pitch attitude. But when people really are able to say, it doesn't matter how I'm taken by other people, but I just enjoy feeling and expressing appreciation, I enjoy feeling and expressing love, whether they hurt me, whether they cut me, whether they didn't really mean it doesn't matter. To be able to give more than the other person, to be able to open yourself more and never to be afraid of what might come as a result of it. This is the mark that I'm talking of a refined person, a sensitive person, and one who has developed enough inner strength not to need to protect himself anymore. What you have to give is your own to give, and how it's taken doesn't matter, because you're not giving it with the thought of what you're going to get in return. Most people give with that thought, and most people give appreciation with that thought. if people can really open their hearts and their minds, their souls, in a spirit of appreciation, it doesn't mean thank you, God, for all your gifts. It means, God, I love you, and it's so wonderful through your gifts to see how you love me. This kind of mutual sharing, which people can enjoy with one another, but which is most beautiful of all when it's expressed with God, toward God. This is the spirit of thanksgiving and the whole purpose behind this beautiful festival. It originated, as Keshav was reading to me today in the encyclopedia, as a harvest festival. Gratitude to God for the harvest that the first Pilgrim Fathers got when they came into this country. And the story, whether it's true or not, the legend is that on that first Thanksgiving Day, the American Indians came to this feast and brought their own harvest, their own produce, and they all sat down and ate together. But there is another thing, that if we give real appreciation to God and really recognize that all gifts come from Him, then we recognize that the source of those gifts is infinite, and we have nothing to be afraid of anymore. We can walk as those two who were, in the beginning they were friendly, the whites and the Indians, but nonetheless there were still some sort of border skirmishes. But at that time and at that meal, you saw symbolized the idea that all good things come from God, so what have we to fear from our fellow man? And if in our emphasis on world brotherhood and trying to bring people together into a consciousness of being one family, if we can emphasize above all that God is our common Father, Mother, Friend, Beloved, and that all things that can come to us come from His hand, whether good, they're all good. Not one of them is bad if we understand it in the right way, because even the things that are painful come for some kind of very important lesson or purification. But if we can take it as coming always from Him, then we can feel gratitude.